I mean, we really love the illusion of the steering wheel. Like, you get into a car, you grip that wheel, you turn it to the left, and the car reliably goes to the left.
Right. It's completely mechanical.
Exactly. It's predictable. It makes total sense.
And it is deeply comforting. You know, we desperately want our lives, our relationships, our careers to operate exactly like that steering wheel. We want input to equal a guaranteed output.
Right. But then you hit a patch of black ice on the highway, and suddenly that steering wheel is just completely, utterly useless.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah, you're spinning out, and all that tight grip you had on the wheel, like all that white-knuckled tension, it means absolutely nothing. You have zero say in where the car is going.
And that terrifying moment of spinning out on black ice, that feeling of just total powerlessness, that is the exact reality we spend our entire lives trying to avoid.
Which brings us to our mission for today. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking this really fascinating audio source that dissects this exact human obsession with control.
Yeah, and it does so through a really unique lens.
It does. It's based on a framework called the 21st Gene Key. And if you aren't familiar with the Gene Keys, think of it as a sort of psychological and archetypal map of human consciousness. It looks at how we move from our base fear-driven reactions all the way to our highest potential.
Exactly. And the map for this specific journey, the 21st Gene Key, it argues that our absolute obsession with control is actually destroying us.
Yeah.
But it also offers a really radical blueprint for what to do when we finally decide to just let go of the wheel.
Yeah.
We're charting the evolution from the exhausting trap of control, moving into the empowering state of authority, and ultimately arriving at a very rare, almost mystical state called valor.
Right. And to really ground this for you, the source anchors this entire concept in foundational imagery from an ancient Chinese text, the I Ching.
Yes, the I Ching.
Specifically, hexagram 21. Now, traditionally, this hexagram is called biting through, which sounds intense. The source likens it to jaws having to gnaw and chew through a really difficult obstacle.
It is a very visceral image.
Totally. But when you look at the visual symbols, the trigrams that make up this hexagram, it's quite beautiful. It's thunder on the bottom, and lightning, which represents illumination, on top.
And what's crucial to understand here is that this hexagram isn't just some abstract piece of poetry. Historically, the I Ching was a pragmatic tool used to help rulers govern entire nations and navigate complex power dynamics.
Right, it's practical.
Very practical. But the secret of the text, and why we are talking about it today, is that its lessons are deeply, intimately applicable to how you govern your own life right now. It is basically a masterclass in inner leadership.
But to understand how we reach that lightning of illumination and true leadership, we first have to look at the thunderous, messy reality where most of us get totally stuck.
Yeah, where we spend most of our time.
Exactly. And that is the base level, the shadow state of this 21st Gene Key, control.
Yes, the shadow of control. And the source makes a very bold claim here. It states that this shadow is rooted entirely in fear.
Just pure fear.
Pure fear. Specifically, the ultimate existential fear. The deep-seated terror that we may one day simply cease to be.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to make sure I'm connecting the dots here.
Sure.
If I am, say, micromanaging a spreadsheet at work, or if I'm snapping at my partner because they loaded the dishwasher wrong, I'm not actively sitting there terrified of my own mortality.
No, of course not.
So how does the fear of death translate to everyday controlling behavior, like yelling about plates in the dishwasher?
It's a great question because it happens completely beneath our conscious awareness. The text explains that this shadow is part of a genetic grouping called the Ring of Humanity.
The Ring of Humanity.
Yeah. This ring is a collection of core themes that keep us trapped in a low-frequency survival mode state. It keeps us wrapped up in victimhood, self-obsession, and agitation.
Oh, wow.
So when you micromanage that spreadsheet, the psychological mechanism at play is the delusion that if you can just arrange your external environment perfectly, you will be safe.
So if the spreadsheet is perfect, my job is secure. If my job is secure, I have money.
Right.
If I have money, I have shelter, I survive.
Precisely. You are basically trying to ward off the inherent unpredictability of life, the black ice.
Wow, yeah.
But trying to micromanage the universe requires a tremendous amount of energy. It literally leeches our life force. We end our days just completely exhausted because we are essentially competing for scraps of certainty in an uncertain world.
Okay, let's look at how this actually looks in practice, because the source introduces this concept called the dilemma of discipline within this shadow of control.
Right, the dilemma.
And reading through it, it immediately made me think of holding a wet bar of soap in the shower. Like, if you are terrified of dropping it, your instinct is to squeeze it incredibly tightly.
Naturally.
But if you over-discipline, if you grip that soap with pure tyranny, the pressure just shoots it right out of your hand. It rebels against the force.
The rebellion is literally baked into the method itself.
Right. But then on the flip side, if you think, okay, squeezing doesn't work, and you hold it too loosely with zero boundaries.
The soap just slips away.
Exactly. It slips into chaos and goes down the drain. So we are caught in this trap. How does this dilemma play out in real human dynamics? The source touches on parenting, but it feels so much bigger than that.
The wet soap is a perfect analogy for any power dynamic, honestly. Corporate structures, government, or families. The source explains that the old-school style of control relies entirely on artificial consequences and punishment.
You squeeze the soap.
You squeeze the soap. You create strict rules to force compliance. But the problem is that only worked temporarily, while you are standing right there enforcing the rules.
Right, the second you turn your back.
Exactly. If you try to control employees or citizens too much, you guarantee that they will eventually set themselves against you.
Because no one likes being squeezed. It breeds resentment.
It does. Just like forceful rulers whose empires inevitably crumble. The text calls it a universally proven fact that we never seem to learn from history. Forced compliance always fails.
Always.
But here's the fascinating underlying mechanism. The source argues we create these unjust, rigid systems of punishment and reward because humanity fundamentally lacks trust in natural consequences.
Oh, that's interesting.
The text actually uses the word karma. We don't trust that behavior naturally creates its own educational consequences. We think we have to manufacture the punishment ourselves.
So if we drop the soap, it's chaos. If we squeeze the soap, we breed a rebellion. What is the actual mechanism of true discipline then?
Well, true discipline, according to the source, is a delicate balancing act of building bonds rather than destroying them.
Building bonds.
Yeah. The stronger your bond is with the people you are leading, the more you can step back and trust that life itself will do the teaching. The text emphasizes that a moral conscience can only grow in the healthy soil of freedom.
Healthy soil of freedom. I like that.
Right. If you constantly micromanage an employee, they never learn how to creatively solve problems. If you take away someone's freedom to fail and learn from the natural fallout of their actions, a genuine internalized morality just cannot develop.
Which is such a tough pill to swallow for anyone who likes to be in charge.
Oh, absolutely.
It basically says that rigid discipline and forced control are fundamentally destined to fail. So if we can't control things to make them go our way, how do we actually step up and lead?
Well,
Because the 21st Gene Key isn't advocating for passive, do-nothing behavior, right? This brings us to the transformative shift, the gift level of this key, which the text calls authority.
yes, the gift of authority. And this is where the really profound psychological shift happens. The core paradox of the source material is this. Finding the strength to overcome the shadow's control actually comes from giving up control.
Giving it up.
It requires yielding, yeah.
Okay, here's where I have to push back a little, or at least ask you to reconcile something for me. I love that the source points out the word author is inside authority. Like, you step up and become the author of your own life story.
Right.
But how do we reconcile this need to surrender control and yield with the source's heavy emphasis that this 21st Gene Key requires decisive action? It talks about stepping out of the fray, being a leader, and having the thunder of a shaman warrior. How on earth are you a decisive warrior if you are actively yielding control?
It's a brilliant paradox, and it raises an essential question about what true power actually is. To answer it, we have to look at the programming partner of the 21st Gene Key.
The programming partner.
Yeah, in this system, keys are paired up. The 21st key is deeply connected to the 48th Gene Key, which is called the well. And the shadow state of that 48th key is inadequacy.
Inadequacy, so a deep feeling of not being enough.
Precisely. And the text notes a profound psychological truth here. Deep down inside, all tyrants feel inadequate. The tyrant's obsession with external control is really just a desperate attempt to fill an internal void of inadequacy. And on the flip side, all followers, or sheep as the text gently puts it, they also feel inadequate.
Oh, I see.
They look to the tyrant to tell them what to do so they don't have to face their own void. They are two sides of the exact same fearful coin.
So true authority isn't about covering up that inadequacy with dominance.
Right. True authority is inner leadership. You become a decisive warrior, not by forcing others to do your will, but by mastering your own internal state. You yield the need to control the outcome, which actually frees you up to act decisively in the present moment with pure integrity.
To really illustrate how this works, the source shares this amazing Hungarian folk myth about the Teltos horse.
Oh, this is a great story.
Yeah, Teltos meaning shaman, and I want to run through this because I think it perfectly answers how we become the warrior by surrendering.
Let's do it.
So, in this myth, the youngest son of a king is sent on a journey to heal his father. But instead of being given a majestic steed for his quest, he is given a decrepit, old, dying nag.
Which feels like a total setup for failure from the universe.
Exactly. It's like life handing you the worst possible circumstances. But the prince doesn't complain. He actually sees the inner value of this broken down animal. And because he recognizes its worth, the horse reveals that it can speak, and it transforms into a magical, resplendent diamond horse that can actually fly.
It's incredible.
But here is where the myth totally lost me on the first read. To overcome the really difficult obstacles on their journey, the shaman prince must let that magical horse die.
Right.
Countless times. He has to kill the very thing that is saving him. How does that make any sense?
It is entirely counterintuitive until you look at the psychological reality of what the horse represents. The magical horse is your greatest asset. It might be your intellect, your wealth, your charisma, or just your sheer force of will.
Whatever you use to navigate the world.
Exactly. Whatever your superpower is. But if you rely on that asset to force your way through life, it becomes a crutch. It becomes just another form of external control.
So he has to let his greatest asset die to prove he isn't attached to it.
Yes. He has to give up control. Every time the shaman prince faces an insurmountable obstacle, he doesn't use the magical horse to hack his way through. He yields. He lets the horse die.
Wow.
But each time he lets it die, each time he surrenders his ego's reliance on his own power, the horse resurrects stronger, more powerful, and more brilliant.
That is wild.
This symbolizes the constant, strident refinement of our inner authority. The text talks about being given a rusty sword by destiny. Life gives you obstacles that seem totally stacked against you, but you don't hack at them in a panic.
You don't grip the steering wheel.
Exactly. You
Okay.
polish the sword by repeatedly surrendering your ego, meeting the obstacles with dignity, allowing life to transform you. You trust the process of rebirth rather than forcing survival.
That completely changes the definition of a warrior.
It really does.
So, let's say you've done the work. You've polished that sword of authority through this continuous process of ego surrender. You've let the horse die and resurrect. What do you actually do with that polished sword? Where does this lead us?
To the ultimate destination.
Right. This brings us to the highest expression, the ultimate state of the 21st gene key, which is called the City of Valor.
City of Valor. And the text makes it very clear that valor is not just bravery. We typically picture valor as, a soldier charging a hill with his weapon drawn.
Yeah, very cinematic.
Right. The source initially defines it as courage combined with love, but then it takes us much deeper. It says valor is actually a deep contemplative practice.
Right, and this is where that original I Ching concept of biting through evolves in a really unexpected way. Remember, the hexagram is about jaws gnawing through an obstacle. But at this ultimate level of valor, it's no longer about hacking your way through an obstacle with your newly polished sword. It's about chewing.
Yes. Chewing life's painful experiences to extract the absolute essence, the nutrients from them.
And the source uses an analogy here that I never in a million years would have expected for a shaman, a warrior.
It's definitely unconventional.
Right. To explain this chewing, it doesn't use a wolf or an eagle or a lion. It uses an earthworm.
It is brilliantly, almost shockingly humbling.
Yeah.
But think about the mechanism of what an earthworm actually does. It takes in the dark, heavy, decaying soil of life. It doesn't fight the dirt. It doesn't try to control the dirt or build a wall against
It
it.
consumes it.
It consumes it. It lets the soil pass through its entire being, extracting the nutrients, and it leaves the world richer, more aerated, and more fertile on the other side.
So the shaman warrior acts like the worm.
Exactly. You become the movement of digestion itself. The person operating in true valor takes in the karma, the suffering, the conflicts of the world. They chew it up.
Process it.
Right. They don't reflect the pain back out. They transmute it internally. They see through the false veil that separates life and death, and they bring back the fertile fruits from the other side. They leave the environment fundamentally better than they found it simply by processing the darkness.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because going from an earthworm back to a sword feels like metaphorical whiplash, but the source bridges this perfectly.
it does.
To illustrate what this ultimate state of transmuting darkness actually looks like in human form, the text brings up a scene from John Borman's film Excalibur, which is just a brilliant cultural pull.
It perfectly embodies the paradox we've been tracking.
Right. So we have young Arthur, who has just pulled the magical sword Excalibur from the stone, and he's fighting this massive, seasoned warrior named Uriens, who believes he is the rightful king.
A huge threat.
Exactly. No, miraculously, Arthur, who is just a boy, defeats this giant man. Uriens is on the ground, defeated. Now, the shadow of control, that fear-based grip we talked about at the beginning, that would demand that Arthur kill Uriens to secure his power and eliminate the threat.
Because that is what the ego does.
Yeah.
It destroys the obstacle.
Oh.
But Arthur does something unthinkable. He performs what the text calls a mystical reversal.
Exactly. Instead of bringing the sword down, Arthur hands Excalibur, the ultimate symbol of power, the very thing they are literally fighting a war over. He hands it, handle first, to his enemy.
It's wild.
And then Arthur drops to his knees, completely undefended, and asks Uriens to knight him. He places his life entirely in the hands of the man who just spent the last 10 minutes trying to hack him to pieces. It is a radical, almost insane exercise in trust.
And that scene beautifully, flawlessly captures the essence of valor. If we connect this back to the broader themes of the text, it touches on the medieval concept of noblesse oblige, the idea that rank and power oblige one to serve, not to dominate.
Yes.
True valor often involves these great paradoxical reversals. It operates invisibly and selflessly.
And what happens in the film? Uriens is totally undone by it. His followers are screaming at him like, kill him, take the sword. It's the ultimate test. But the sheer valor, the sheer vulnerability of Arthur's selfless act, it completely heals Uriens' ambition.
It transmutes it.
It transmutates his greed. Uriens takes the sword, taps Arthur on the shoulder, knights him, and pledges his life in service. He realizes that only a true king, someone with genuine inner authority, could surrender power so completely.
That is the ultimate realization of the 21st gene key. The sword of authority is finally used to heal rather than to hack.
Wow.
In the beginning, when we are trapped in the shadow of control, we use whatever power we have to hack at life to try and force the black ice to melt. And we only experience the punishing blowback of our own actions.
The soap shoots out of our hands.
Exactly. But eventually, we learn to yield. We let the horse die. We give up our personal identification with being the boss or the winner.
We digest the dirt.
We digest the dirt. We merge with the limitless light that the lightning trigram represents. And by doing so, we earn the ultimate prize, which is wisdom. That's the highest state of that 48th gene key we mentioned earlier.
Right.
It takes exquisite courage and love to die to your own ego with an open heart, to give up your identity and your attachments, and to literally hand over the sword.
It's an incredible, sweeping journey. I mean, we are moving from the exhausting fear-based grip of control, where we are terrified of losing our grip on the wet soap and trying to manufacture consequences.
Right.
We move through the empowering, paradoxical surrender of authority, where we learn to polish our rusty swords by trusting the resurrection of the Taltos horse.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we arrive at this selfless, world-enriching state of valor, where we are chewing the dark soil of life like the earthworm and handing our power over to heal our enemies.
It is a complete, fundamental transformation of what it means to be a powerful human being. True power is not something you wield. It is a field that follows a surrendered person. It cannot be owned. It simply operates through you when you finally let go of the steering wheel.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now?
The Source makes a beautiful, deeply reassuring final promise. It points back to that I Ching imagery of thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
It says that the true meaning of this gene key is that the lightning, the breakthrough, the illumination, it only strikes when grace dictates. You cannot force it.
Right.
But the thunder always precedes it.
Always.
So whenever the thunder of intense change or conflict or loss booms in your life, pay attention. Don't grip the steering wheel tighter, because the lightning of illumination is never far behind.
And I would leave you with one final thought, building on that Excalibur myth and this profound concept of biting through.
If the ultimate act of valor is surrendering the very sword of power you fought so incredibly hard to obtain, well, I want you to look closely at the areas in your life right now where you feel you finally won. The places where you have achieved total control, where you are sitting comfortably on the throne, whether that's at work, in a relationship, or even just in your own self-image. What if the true test of your inner nobility isn't how tightly you can hold on to that prize, but recognizing exactly who you were meant to hand it over to?
It's a question that completely changes the game. Because at the end of the day, when you hit that patch of black ice and you're spinning out, maybe the most heroic, decisive thing you can do isn't to fight the steering wheel. Maybe it's having the valor to simply take your hands off, trust the momentum, and see where the ice takes you.